I do have a tech breaking vibe. So. Okay.
It appears that way.
Well,
Okay.
nicely done, guys.
We have 23 of the 35 people we had before.
Notice they haven't left the room yet.
Just go ahead and bring that up into presentation mode and then,
You want me to reintroduce it?
yeah. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead and just kind of start us over.
We're back up. Thank you guys for your patience. I know it's been a little bit, but we got it together. We are going to continue the meeting today with item number A2 under presentations, which would be an annual abandoned vehicle abatement program update from CAO Tuthill.
Thank you, Chair. If I may too, just to clarify that the presentation from the Forest Service is not going to happen today due to just some scheduling issues with the presenter. So just for the public is aware. You still okay with sound? Okay, I think we'll keep pushing through. So this is the annual update on the abandoned vehicle abatement program. If you recall, there was a grand jury report a couple years ago on this. We did some actions. There's been a couple updates at various times in here on this program. There's been a budget adjustment request on this program, but this is just the annual update on the program for 2024. So if you go to the next slide, Leah. So I just wanted to provide the board kind of an overview of what we did in 2024 as far as abandoned vehicle abatements. We did gain some capability within the general services arena. They acquired a car hauler themselves, so we don't have to pay every time we do this. If it's just a vehicle versus like an RV, or if it's a burnt vehicle and we can get it on a trailer. So it's given us some options there. You can see that our annual budget for this area is only around $15,000. This is what we get in from the registered vehicles, that the $1 per registered vehicle that is registered in Trinity County. So the amount is pretty small. That also goes towards any time, that our staff bills towards this particular program. So when they're out doing a vehicle abatement, that's coming out of that annual budget. So this year, or in the calendar year 2024, there were 6 vehicles that were removed. 3, as you can see there on the screen, were towed by a third party on behalf of the county, and then 3 were removed by General Services. There was a 7th vehicle, but once that was tagged and once there were some conversations with the owner, that one was removed by the owner and no expense from the county. There were also 527 private party assist. And if anybody's asking what that is, there's a form that is obtained through the Abandoned Vehicle Abatement Program Office, the General Services Office. That's a DMV form that is completed by the private applicant and then submitted. And then that basically starts the process to take that vehicle off of the official DMV rolls for that particular owner. So there's quite a bit of activity that goes on there in this arena, but those are all private, and that's a good thing when those numbers are where they're at. The pictures there, those are some of the vehicles that were taken care of in 2024, just to give you a general idea of what's been going on. And with that, I'll pause for any questions or maybe.
So I have one question, CEO Tuthill. With the $1 per vehicle registration, our budget is fixed solely to that? We cannot.
Unless this board decides to put general fund towards it, yes.
Thank you.
I just want to make a general comment for the sake of the public. As you've heard from this update, this costs the county money. I would just like to encourage anyone who hires people to quote unquote clean up their property, that you make sure that that person is taking anything they're removing from your property to proper disposal by probably asking for receipts or something like that. There has been some evidence to date that suggests that some of the folks who are doing quote unquote property cleanups are cleaning up and putting the burden on us with vehicles that are filled with trash and different things. So just be an active citizen when you hire people. Make sure that they are properly disposing of the things they're removing from your property.
CEO Tudhill, at what point during the year did this $15,000 run out?
It all depends upon what vehicles need to be abated. So the cost of a passenger vehicle, if you will, is much less than the cost of these RVs that you see. If it's like I said earlier, we do have some internal capability now. If it's a vehicle, if it's decent size, passenger type vehicle that's easily accessible, more than likely we can do that ourselves and we won't have that third-party cost. If it's a third-party cost, the range seems to be based upon location in the county and how far it needs to be towed or hauled. It's anywhere from 1,500 or so upwards to, we've seen as high as 3,000, 3,500 per vehicle. So it just depends. And that's what I needed to come back to the board for last year, because we had expended all the funds in here and we had one more vehicle that needed to be removed. So we went ahead and got that authorization and then did that. So it really just depends upon the type of vehicle more than anything else as far as what drives the cost.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Heidi, Rick?
Nope.
Jill?
I do not.
No. Then we'll move on to public comment period. This time is for information from the public on matters not appearing on this agenda or than the consent calendar. All comments are limited to 3 minutes and must pertain to matters within the jurisdiction of this board. When addressing the board, please state your name for the record and address the board as a whole through the chair. No action or discussion will be conducted on matters not listed on the agenda. However, the chair may refer the subject matter to the appropriate department for follow-up schedule or to follow up the scheduled matter on subsequent board agenda. Do we have any public comment in the room?
Hand up, should I give them now?
Sure.
or- Okay, this one's for
Leah?
pretty much everybody. Thank you. My name is Mary Cole, and I'm here to address the serious issues caused by cell phone towers in Trinity County. Since 2021, we have been dealing with the aftermath of a poorly managed AT&T tower project on our neighbor's property, just 238 yards from our home. Heavy rains and snow that winter caused erosion from the road built to the tower, triggering a mudslide that destroyed our fence and ran 175 yards through our property, clogging the French drains that my husband built to channel water coming off the mountain to the drains to avoid any impact on my husband's sawmill and heavy equipment. When we sought help, our neighbor was indifferent and had no useful information as to the contact for AT&T. We then reached out to Trinity County officials, including engineer Dave Colbeck, who told us that they felt there would be a problem with that road, but was assured by AT&T contracted engineers it would be okay, so it was signed off. He then sarcastically stated Trinity County is out of the picture and we had to deal with AT&T ourselves, an impossible task. Rick Lutweiler, Trent Tudhill, and Ed Presley have all been contacted regarding this unresolved issue. Despite efforts from county officials like Ed Presley, letters of noncompliance were sent to AT&T and our neighbor in early November, yet nearly 3 months later, nothing has been done. Now Verizon, through Sequoia Deployment Services, is requesting a permit to upgrade the same tower behind our house. I even encountered a surveyor at our driveway proving this process is moving forward despite ongoing compliance issues. The tower was permitted as a monopine, and now the pine covering has fallen off the top panels, exposing the yellow antenna. There is no aesthetic and or road maintenance being done by AT&T. They and our neighbor got their tower and walked away. Trinity County's permitting process has failed its residents. I have poured through pages and pages of county records for this tower and find that the permitting process was not properly adhered to. In line with the conditional use permit, there was to be a grading, drainage, and erosion control plan for the entire road, not just for the encroachment permit. According to Chelsea Jones, the DOT did not receive one. Trinity County DOT was not aware of the items required by the planning department except for the encroachment permit. How does that happen? If this were a cannabis farm causing damage to a neighboring property, its license would be revoked immediately. Why should AT&T be treated any differently by Trinity County and the supervisors? Today, I just urge you to impose a moratorium on all new tower installations and upgrades until proper oversight and accountability can be assured. The situation at 1240 Lewiston Road is a prime example of what happens when there is none. We must demand better protection for our properties, remediate any and all land disturbances immediately, and hold these faceless corporations accountable. The monopine at 1240 needs to be restored to a monopine and not a fake pine tree 3/4 of the way up and then opening it up into a huge yellow antenna. That was not what the Planning Commission signed off on back in 2018. Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning, Chairman Gogan, Vidette Vanderwide, Lewiston. I stand before you today following my mother, Mary Cole, with the same safety threat, but a different perspective. As former staff to Trinity County's Cannabis Division, I've seen firsthand how this county operates. I have witnessed legal cannabis farmers face strict scrutiny, forced to meet rigorous environmental requirements, and should any land use problems occur, down to the "I don't like the smell" from biased neighbors, they've had their business operations shut down until all issues were mitigated. Yet when my parents reported severe erosion caused by the cell phone tower at 1240 Lewiston Road 2 years ago, their concerns were all but ignored. Here's what the public needs to know. A PRA with the planning department revealed that there's really no codified permitting process for these towers. No environmental review was required, nor were any erosion control plans, mitigation measures. In essence, this multi-billion-dollar faceless entity was not required to hold any accountability for this tower after it was erected. Either this is a grave error on the part of a county or something a little bit more interesting. This public comment is not just about erosion. It's about equality, safety, and responsibility to humble oneself when a job isn't done right and the opportunity to make it right. Meanwhile, cannabis farmers are held to the highest of standards. Why does a multi-billion-dollar corporation like AT&T get a free pass while local cannabis farmers and their businesses and landowners suffer? My family's land, once pristine, is now eroding. We live under constant exposure to electromagnetic frequencies as it emits dangerous levels of radiation, not to mention that this beams towards Lewiston's elementary school. I'm asking you to take immediate action at this point, board. Rescind all permits and halt operations until erosion on my parents' land is mitigated. Do the equitable thing that I've seen done to cannabis farms. If safety is the issue, then I remind Trinity County, Lewiston people that we have had no cell phone service up until 5 years ago. We will be fine for it to go down for a little bit while this is made right. 2, compensate my parents for property damage, heavy equipment expenses for ongoing cleanup, and preventative medicine compensation for the long-term health risks this tower brings. And better yet, consider a tax break. Their taxes go up, but their land is eroding. Just do something. Do something. Implement an emergency moratorium on further cell phone development in Trinity County until a proper codified permitting process is in place. Or better yet, Lewiston knows how to opt out. Why doesn't Trinity County opt out of any more cell phone towers so that we can protect our pristine environment and our land, which we find very sacred? The cell phone tower poses a massive, massive risk. Do the right thing here. Your process failed. Let's make it right.
Any more public comment in the room?
Good morning, Lisa Wright, Lewiston. Just kind of in response to the concerns regarding the cell tower, I do recall sitting in planning commission meetings, there was a permitting process, there was environmental evaluation that was done, so that might be something that you could review prior to making any overall overreaching kind of decisions about Trinity County as a whole and cell phone towers. I think that cell phone tower in Lewiston, from a functional perspective, not considering certainly the erosion or environmental impacts, has really been a boost, to the area. A lot of people have been able to have phone coverage that didn't have to hardwire to AT&T underground, kind of stuff. So I think there is an advantage to continuing with technology and bringing that to Trinity County. There's also, talking about cannabis farms and the scrutiny and the permitting that they go through, there are similar kind of regulations from the Water Board apply to any kind of development. So for example, there's stormwater pollution protection plans that are required for erosion mitigation. They'll actually require an engineer to go out and measure the amount of sediment that's coming off of a site during storm events over the period of that SWIP, it's called. There's a construction general permit that's required, not just for cannabis farmers, but if you're going to be disturbing larger areas of land that could result in erosion. So there are some other kind of mechanism potentially that could allow for protection, and maybe it would be something where you refer the Water Board in. So it's certainly sad to hear that someone's property is being as impacted as it is. I think there might be some other things to look at before moving forward in one particular direction. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment in the room?
Morning, board. My name is Michael Millerick. I'm a resident of Weaverville. Moved here in 2018. I came to comment on some of the discussion that y'all had last week regarding a proposed sales tax measure for the county. Overall, I was disappointed in much of the discussion that the board had. It did not reflect the level of support from the board that I believe any sales tax or other tax measure would need in order to be successful in this county. Many of your comments were heavily qualified. Some of you outwardly saying that you oppose new taxes. Some of you qualifying your discussion of the benefits to county services that would be that the additional revenue would have, by also saying that you don't like taxes. Well, sure, it's a tax measure, but I think that in order for that measure or any other measure to be successful, y'all need to change the messaging on it and make sure that you put the services first and foremost. One of the comments that Rick made in passing towards the end of the discussion was that that measure alone will not be sufficient in order to maintain the level of county services, which is true. You don't need a strong accounting background to be able to look through the county's financial reports and see that. Granted, I'm still eagerly awaiting last year's financial report to be posted. But I think that all of you really need to focus on not just the sales tax measure, but also other tax measures within the upcoming ballot cycle. There are certainly creative ways that you can go about raising and increasing county revenues. One proposal that I've thought of for a long time would be to increase property taxes on property owners that don't live in the county and do not rent their residential properties to residents of the county. People who own vacation homes, people who own short-term things like Airbnbs. That, like the transient occupancy tax, would be generated revenues off of people that do not live in the county. And honestly, as someone who originally purchased their home in Trinity County as a vacation home and did not live in it for the first 3 years that I was here, the property tax amount was not even on my radar when purchasing the home. A difference in $1,000 or $2,000 in property taxes a year for someone who is purchasing a non-primary residence that they don't intend to live in, no one's paying attention to that. Generate revenue off of it. The tax rates are already insanely low in this county, as we see from the county's inability to provide services. Anyway, I would encourage all of you to really put the services first and foremost, and begin working more with the public on not just the sales tax measure, but other potential revenue generating sources. Thank you.
Thank you. comment in the room? On Zoom?
Ben?
Good morning, staff and members of the board. Ben Kellogg, Weaverville.
We're not hearing you, Ben.
Do we have someone else we can put ahead of Ben? He was the sole owner.
Can you hear me now?
Ben, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can hear you.
He can hear us. We just can't hear you.
And we don't have their mics muted.
They've not muted us. I just got a text message. Mary can hear Ben.
Oh.
So, Tut Hill, what is the formal protocol for this? I am happy to give him my phone number and he could call and we could hear him this way.
Okay.
So do you want to send him my phone number via chat? Well, if he can hear me, Ben.
He can hear us.
530-739-5998. If you'll call, I'll put you on speaker, or put you in front of my microphone and we should be able to hear you. Okay, Ben, I think we've got you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Good morning, board and staff. I was wondering if we are going to have some type of presentation from the county regarding the ramifications of the Trump administration deciding to rethink all federal loans and grants and how that will affect the citizens of this county. Even though the OMB letter, Office Management and Budget letter, was rescinded by the Trump administration, they still state that all federal loans and grants are frozen for the time being. I think a lot of us would like to see how this is going to pan out within the county. We have lots of loans and grants up here from, HHS to daycare funding, everything like that. So that would be my first question to the board. I think it'd be a great idea. Thank you very much. Okay.
Lost him for some reason. And we'll call back.
Leah, can you pause this time?
This one doesn't have a pause option.
Oh, geez.
So he was at 1:45, so you
It
know.
was at 1:45.
Let me see if I can call him
Got it.
back. Yeah, I don't have the greatest signal.
Hey, Eric.
Okay, we lost you there for a bit. We keeping track of the time you lost, so go ahead.
Where did you lose me at?
You were just finished your first question.
Daycare funding loans.
That was it.
Oh, okay.
It was easy. Ben, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Looks like we have got
Um,
Demetrio?
Yes.
Guess I'll expect that phone call too.
Can anyone hear me?
Yes.
You can hear me? Okay, my name's
Can
Tiffany.
hear
I can hear it
there,
through
but we,
yours. I can hear it through yours.
so I don't know. Yeah, well,
I'm gonna try the same thing.
I'm gonna try this.
Well, hold on a second.
Do you want to call my phone number so we can do what we did with the previous caller?
That sounds fine if you can't hear
If
me.
so, it is 530-739-5998. Okay, we can hear you.
Okay, my name's Tiffany Thurman. I live in Hayfork, and I feel very strongly that we need a moratorium on all cell phone tower installations in Trinity County due to the fact that the FCC has been ordered by a couple of courts that they need to go back and assess their safety values for this technology, which was established in 1996 and only looked at the heating properties of EMFs, of Wi-Fi. And that is woefully behind the times. There are thousands, literally thousands of peer-reviewed scientific papers that state that this is not safe for humans or other biological entities on the earth, especially for children. That children actually absorb this much more than adults do. Here in Hayfork, we have a small cell tower antenna on top of the elementary school. We recently were successful in stopping Verizon from putting a giant tower right next to our water supply, right next to Hayfork Reservoir. I think moratorium until we can get something called a protective ordinance that will protect, that will outline where these cell towers cannot go, which would be right next to the house, right next to a business, a church, a school. We, the people, do have power against these giant behemoths of technology, but we have to raise our voices. We have to put it in writing that we do not accept that they can just carte blanche blanket our environment with these man-made, unnatural radiation electromagnetic frequencies. So whatever I have to do to educate you as to why this is such a terrible technology that's unleashing all over us and is wrecking our health, is not allowing us to, remember things well. This has to be reined in. And I look forward to working with you. Maybe we can make a task force. We're starting to organize here in Hayfork, and we welcome anyone who also has these concerns. Thank you very much.
Anybody else on Zoom? Okay, we will have report outs from department heads. Do we have any department heads in the room? On Zoom, excuse me. On cell.
None.
Then we'll move on to report from CEO Tuthill.
Thank you, Chair. As a update to one of the public comments on the AT&T site, I will provide, just for full board awareness, that we have been in contact with the behemoth of AT&T, as was stated. We finally got to the senior real estate property manager who has got responsibility for said location. As of December 19th, the last update that we got from them, they did a site walk on the 12th of December with their ops manager, Streamline Engineering, and their civil engineering vendor. They have requested that team proceed with a new geotech and survey of the surrounding hillside. The estimated time for completion of that survey and analysis was 60 to 90 days. Again, that was from December 19th. So we are approaching the 60-day period, and we will reach back out to AT&T and see what their current status is on that topic. Few other items that I've got for the board today. I did have the federal funding pause as a topic. We are monitoring that for local impact. There is no detailed analysis or presentation that would be useful for the board or the public yet on that. Not to say there won't be at some point, but I believe, as most of the board members have seen through our organizations that we participate in, like the rural counties and then all of California counties, and even NACO to a certain point, and the County Executive Officer Association that I'm part of. There's lots of analysis that's been done at the federal level and some at the state level as far as what those federal funding freezes, letters, and executive orders that have been signed to date could potentially have locally. But it is still too early and undetermined as far as what exact impact that would have to be a meaningful conversation in this forum. So rest assured that there is lots of eyes on this. There's lots of visibility. And at the appropriate time, I concur that it's a good topic for presentation, good item of discussion to have in here as far as, what specific impacts are we going to potentially see moving forward based upon some potential federal funding changes. So we are keeping tabs of that, and we will continue to do so. And when the time's right, we will bring back a further detailed analysis of that. As an announcement, we're working with Hambro Recycling to bring back the CRV recycling to Weaverville. Just yesterday, we submitted the actual application to Cal Recycle. Part of this program is in concert with Humboldt County, and we are actually operating underneath an already existing Humboldt County program that Hambro Recycling already operates, or the application was put in underneath the Humboldt County program. The application time period is probably in the 90-day range for some type of approval from Cal Recycle. And then we will continue to work with Hambro on the specifics of opening up here in Weaverville. The proposed site location is where the old location was that Bigfoot used to operate at 31 Davis Drive. And Hambro has been working with those prior businesses and property owners to work all the appropriate business details on that as far as acquiring equipment, acquiring bins, and specifics on that property location. So I've had a few good conversations with the individuals from Hambro who do this. So we're optimistic that we will have some CRV recycling back in the Weaverville area at the end of that 90-day type of period. Next topic is a quick CD Hall update. We had a public meeting on the 23rd of January at the CD Hall, the evening, 6:30 p.m. We had some good input, and based upon the staff analysis and that input, some direction has been provided to the architecture and engineering firm to continue with the design, different elements of design for this project. So there is an ADA compliance aspect that they will continue to take to the full 95% design. There's some structural retrofit on the roof that needs to happen. Big focus is the commercial kitchen, which we're going to fully explore that and get that fully designed as appropriate. There's going to be some HVAC replacement that's going to happen, some potential window replacement, sound system, and painting, some office lighting receptacle upgrades, rough in for the serving area in the back corner there where there's, at some events, there's traditionally a serving bar back there. We're going to rough in some plumbing to make that more of a permanent fixture in there. Then we're going to look at some electrical upgrades. Again, all this is in the design phase. This is not in the construction or bidding phase. This is just in the design phase. So the contractor is taking those elements I just mentioned to the 95% design phase, which we will then have another touch point with them and some more decisions. They are building towards approximately a $1 million construction project scope, which is what the available funding we anticipate for the actual construction after you take out about $147,000 for the design piece. And then there's probably, the best estimate is there's about a $200,000 construction site prep and overall maintenance and project overview, inspection type of fee that most contractors pin onto a project this size. So that's what we're anticipating. But all that will be determined in any final RFP that will go out in bidding that will take place much later on down the road. So probably within 60 days or so, we should have the next design phase submitted for that project. As you may have noticed walking in the door at the library today, there is a new ADA compliant automatic door opener option. So to the left-hand side of the two double doors, there's an actual wheelchair button that can be pushed that will automatically open the door. If you just pull the door itself, you'll notice it's a little harder to pull, but I just would encourage everybody just to pull it a little bit and then let it automatically open and do its thing the rest of the way. It's not broken, it's not harder, it's just pull it a little bit and then let it automatically do its thing. It will stay open for a certain amount of time. Right now, it's programmed for 12 seconds. I just was talking to General Services out there this morning. We're probably going to bump that down to like 5 to 8 seconds, somewhere in that range, which gives somebody who needs that ADA access enough time to access and get in through the door without their equipment getting intruded by a closing door. However, if the door does close on some piece of equipment or somebody, it's sensored enough to where it will automatically sense that and then reopen again. It's not going to close anybody in the door or cause anybody to get trapped in there. So just kind of help us work through that from a usability standpoint as you come into this facility, and we'll work through the newness of that over the next few weeks. You may recall last year that we sent 4 members to the CSAC Leadership Institute in a partnership with Humboldt County, and they graduated, and their recognition and their completion plaques were presented here by CSAC Leadership. We have 2 more employees this year that are participating in that. They've started in January. They've done their January visits. They'll do those each month through May, and then they will be completed with that. So we have an individual from the auditor's office and an individual from the Treasury office department, that are attending that. And I'm grateful for their willingness to continue their leadership journey. On February 13th, we'll have a joint Board of Supervisors and Planning Commission meeting to conduct the housing element workshop. This meeting is specifically for the housing element only, and it's part of what HCD is looking for when they review and approve our plan at the state level. The meeting is planned to be relatively short based upon history and experience working with the consultant team who is running this for us. Traditionally, these are very, very short meetings but also needed. So we will do that. We'll open it. It's going to be, like I said, a joint Board of Supervisors Planning Commission meeting. It'll be open to the public. Comments, very obviously welcome, and any dialogue that we're going to have there will happen. The timing of it was important because it's part of the process, the completion for this actual housing element, and then getting this into HCD for review. But we're also trying to marry up with already existing meetings with the Planning Commission, so they wouldn't be coming back and forth, and then already planned scheduled items for the overall housing element project that we have going. So that hopefully will be a good meeting on the 13th. We just started a county newsletter. The first one went out just yesterday. The intent is to provide some consolidated, good news items, what county departments are engaged in, what they have been providing, and it's just another venue to share information. The first newsletter highlighted a number of different activities over the past month or so, and the quote department that was highlighted this time just to get things going and to provide a framework for the newsletter was the County Administration Office. So you'll see some items in there as far as what administration does. The I do understand there was some potential viewing, some technical issues depending upon what platform you're trying to view the newsletter in. Those have been received, and I thank you for those. And those are being worked right now. As we get this document out there in further circulation, if there's more issues, please provide that feedback back to myself or our contract PAO, Justin, and we will continue to refine this product. But the idea is for each month over the year, a different department will be highlighted in there, and we'll be able to see some good things that they've done, and then it'll be up to that department, to kind of highlight whatever they've got going on over that time period. So looking forward to another venue, another option of how we're going to share information electronically within the county. I also want to acknowledge the storms that are ongoing right now and the potential impacts to those. We have received some information, as far as flooding in different areas, some landslides in certain areas, some on state roads, some on county roads. And I thank all of those individuals for that information. I'd also encourage people to continue to report any damage, through the DOT road conditions website, or by calling DOT, or by reporting that via email directly to myself or the supervisors. If you see that is the best course of action. But however you choose to, if there's damage out there, please let us know. We've got our road crews out there addressing issues right now. They have been all weekend. They have been plowing snow. They've been doing different activities. We're aware of most items, but I'm very confident we're not aware of all. So please help us identify any damage from the storm that maybe have already occurred or anything that may occur over the next few days. That's all I've got for right now.
CAO Tuthill, for the joint meeting, do you have a time and place for the public knowledge?
2 p.m.
Thank you.
As far as department heads, I'd like to see the natural resource department head in here to discuss what his plans are or hers in the future, and let us know why there was such a big deficit in budget, if possible. Thank you.
And we will go with report outs from members of the board. And I kind of think I was part and parcel to most of the meetings, so we can start out with Julia.
And Liam, do you have an email I sent to you, because for some reason with this computer things going on this morning, I sent you a letter from my constituent, and it is not in my documents to the county. I sent one to Trent also.
I've got it if you
Great. If you,
want it, or
great. I'd love to have it if you could send it to me.
I have it right here, Julia, if you want
Okay,
to
great.
look at it.
That'd be perfect.
Starts right there.
Thank you.
Now,
Okay,
Julia.
so I met with the DOT about a week back. I'm not satisfied with the information that I got from him on what progress is being done on the roads. If anybody has ever been up there, we need to take them, the road department up. Obviously, they haven't seen the damage because you can't hardly drive on those roads anymore. So I am not going through the channels that are normal. We need to progress. So this is a letter I got, an email I got, one of many people upset with our roads.
Can I
And so
interrupt you for a second, Julia? Are you reading this letter
Yep.
from your constituent?
I'm reading this letter from the constituent.
Not
This
as a
is
board member?
not as a board member. This is from him. It was sent to, they asked me to send it to all of you, but I couldn't do that as a Browns Act. So this is from the constituent himself, and here is the letter. Dear District 5 Supervisor Julia Brownfield, I thank you for your service and your commitment. I observe your last supervisor meeting, taking notice that all 5 supervisors taking the Pledge of Allegiance, a promise to be faithful and true and provide justice for all. I, Jim Johnson, would like to invite all 5 supervisors to visit the Injustice for All Travelers on the Xenia Lake Mountain Road. all the way to Mendocino County line in Trinity jurisdiction, then proceed down the Peak Road to the Humboldt County line and finish down the Xenia Bluff Road to the Humboldt County line. To truly witness the injustice when it comes to public safety on these priority roads for our communities, I would like community boards of supervisors to be faithful in their jurisdiction to actually witness the huge potholes, dropouts, sinkholes, plugged up culverts, plugged up ditches, water running across the road, rock slides and trees in the roads, the lack of center lines, fog lines, cinders on icy roads. 1 year, 3 different stranded vehicles on Xenia Lake Mountain Road in the snow were rescued by a logger and a skidder. Took a week before the snow plows even showed up. Several years ago, we had 6 employees in Xenia Yard and 4 in Ruth Yard to properly maintain the roads ahead of the school buses. I do not consent to online complaints to the DOT. It has proven fruitless and no one is held accountable. Only the Board of Supervisors can correct this problem by reinstating the road maintenance crew back in Xenia and not a complaint-driven crew. Thank you for your help, Jim. Please forward to all Trinity County Board of Supervisors. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
Okay.
If you want to comment, that's, yep.
That's all you could say, because it's just a letter from the public. Do we handle that in the correct way right there? Because I think I remember in the past, we would go out to the.
Well, she's.
Really public comment.
It's not turning out. Thanks. Normally it would come in like a paper form and be just made part of the record as correspondence. But she can read it in as part of her reports. It's okay. But generally you want it in paper copy and usually given to the clerk as well.
Wonderful. Okay. I'm just suggesting maybe at some point we could, if the board agreed, we could have a conversation about the roads, maybe a possibility, a discussion of the possibility of an ad hoc or a commission on these rural roads for our county. And that's it for that. But I had some wonderful meetings with some wonderful department heads. LAFCO, we met with Colette and the PUD, the Post Mountain PUD. I'm really happy to say that progress is being made on the PUD. Really am encouraged by that, and I think we're going to do that the PUD will do a really good job on moving forward with that. And I met with the HHS. Liz Hamilton is wonderful, and her, and I think it's Arena. They were wonderful. They explained how the HHS worked to me. I was astounded at the amount of money in assistance that our community needs, and was very encouraged by the collaboration on getting these people to a sustainable life on their own. So that was wonderful. We had some great ideas about that, and she was wonderful. And then I went over to H&R and talked to Sherry White, who is the domestic violence office. And again, great work. I think she's a wonderful woman with great foresight into the problem and solutions. So I just wanted to thank her, for everybody, for their time on that with me. I have a lot more meetings stacked up in the future, and I'm having a town hall every last Thursday of the month for my people here, and I've been in constant contact with them. And so that's all I have to say. No out of town. Thank you.
Jill?
Thank you. I spent an hour with Alec Domka, UC Cooperative Extension, providing my perspectives toward his needs assessment to guide his work in Trinity County. I pulled Alec into an upcoming conversation that I will have with Ryan Richardson, who is our Superior California Economic Development Executive Director, to hear updates regarding projects that he has on the horizon. Give this board a little heads up that NorCal EMS, that is currently structured as a nonprofit, is converting to become a joint powers authority. This is necessary because Amanda, fill in the gap, the records that Donna can't What am I missing? She's trying to,
Well, it's a,
Need a mic?
yeah.
I just need to fill in that one.
Yeah, no, I'd have to pull up my email and
Yeah.
her specific reasons, but it's also kind of just getting a group together that has more authority to.
It is.
Operate.
There's a piece in here, and I'm sorry for that. Maybe if I'd read my notes, I would have it in front of me.
Here.
I should have been more careful. I apologize for that. There are DOJ reports, thank you, brain, that she is unable to get because they won't release those to a nonprofit. And so she has had a workaround in place for a number of years that she continues to run into a wall. So when she is trying to do employee background checks before hiring, she is not able to get these documents. So converting the entire organizational structure over to a joint powers authority will solve this problem in perpetuity. This will not cost the county any additional money, and she's been very careful to make sure that it doesn't, and the language has been carefully structured. If any county would need to withdraw from the JPA, there will not be costs associated with that removal. So just so that you know, this is going to be coming up on hopefully the February 18th agenda for our approval that Trinity agrees. It's stated within the JPA structure itself that all 5 counties must agree to this, because if any one county had a problem with it, it would certainly affect everyone. So if you have questions or concerns about that, I would encourage that you reach out to Donna Stone, NorCal EMS Executive Director, before the 18th and have your questions responded to there, so that we don't become the county that slows the process down, as it is really important to the entity that this move forward. That is the end of my report. Thank you.
Rick?
Hey, I met with Heidi McHugh, the field representative for newly elected Assembly Member Rogers. I thought it was great to have a little bit of time to fill them in with information that we felt was important for them to know about Trinity County. And I also put her in touch with about a dozen other folks that I thought could help inform her and him so that they can support us well. But I appreciated that outreach. Weaverville Chamber, I was asked to be a guest speaker there to share information about community development, both from a TCDC standpoint, but also what the Board of Supervisors was doing in the county. And so I was able to share some information about that, including the recently approved Tourism Development Advisory Board. And regarding that, just preparing for next steps, our deputy clerk of the board published the information that we have vacancies to fill in each district to be members of this board. In the meantime, I met with Civitas, who had worked with members of Trinity County in the past, and whom Wayne Agner, as a representative of the Trinity Chamber of Commerce, had been working with. We went over the proposal that she had shared with them. One thing I wanted to note was I think the board was given and approved $30,000. That was the number, but there was also a $3,000 admin cost. So just a heads up that if we go in that direction, that will be a slight increase. But mainly I wanted to better understand what's the process that we'd be going through, what should we have as expectations? So she laid out basically a 5-step process and a timeline that goes 5 to 6 months. This is a process that would normally be more like 12 months, but because they had done work with us before and still have information gathered from that work, maps and information about businesses and so forth that might need to be updated, but they're not starting from scratch. They think they can do it within the time frame of the 5 to 6 months and at the price of the $30,000. I asked what the people that join this development advisory board should expect in terms of a time commitment. And her answer, which I thought was important to get to you guys as soon as possible, is 1 to 1.5 hour meetings every other week for 5 to 6 months. So sometimes we ask people to be on a board or a committee or something, and that means meet once a month or once a quarter or once a year. This is a little bit heavier lifting because there's a very active process that we have to go through. So as you're reaching out to people that either you would like to be on that board or voice an interest, you might want to share that information. I have asked, I've seen it happen that the clerk of the board forwarded email with documents that I received from Civitas. One was their proposal and the other one was a timeline that showed what happens during that 5 to 6 months, including when it comes back to this full board, because the full board still does have a role at some point in the process. And the main things that those advisory board members should understand is they would be involved in these discussions, making decisions about the scope of the improvement district and the types of businesses that would be included, about the process that we'll go through to get it in place. They would be responsible for working with others in the community to get the petition signatures that are needed. And I think mainly to let people know, the way this works is you define which businesses are going to participate. That could be just hotels. It could be all lodging. It could be lodging and retail. It can be, whatever you define it to be. But once you define that, the types and the regional scope, to be successful, you have to get more than 50% of the revenue that would be collected by those businesses represented by the petition in support. So let's say, Liam has a store and I have a store and my store is 49% and his store is 51% of revenues for which a fee would be associated. If Liam did not support it, it wouldn't happen because I only represent 49%. So it's not just number of businesses, it's what percent of the revenues that a fee would be associated with would be collected.
But that would be only those businesses that said, I do want to be a part of this process, or that's all businesses within a category?
All businesses in the category.
Okay.
So for example, what I've heard from, I had some outreach from people afterwards, getting into a little bit more of a committee update, sorry, but that apparently the last effort failed at about 42 or 43%, something like that. It was around 40%. And it was because some of the larger hotels did not support it, and they represented the bulk of what would be collected through that assessment. So once you said hotels, then if you didn't get the hotels that represented 50% or more of that revenue, as indicated by the way we can look at it through various means, then you wouldn't be successful. So we can get a presentation later and get an update from Civitas. They offered to do that, and I said I would work with you guys to get that. But I just mainly right now wanted to give people a brief understanding of how this works and the information so that if you're working with people to become your representative on that district, that they understand what they're signing up for.
And could you repeat one more time? You said 1 to 1.5 hour meetings, and did you say twice a week, 6 months?
Every other week.
It's a month, twice a month.
Yeah, every other week for 5 to 6 months. And there could be some, on and off months for things that have to be done, but that was her general guidance.
Thank you.
And again, this is all assuming that the committee or board decides to move forward with Civitas, though, based on the fact that they're cutting the time and the money in half from having worked on it before, that's probably where I'm assuming where we'll end up, but we'll see. And that's it.
Are you sure?
I think that's it.
Right, Heidi.
Thank you, Rick. That was informative. I appreciate all that information. I attended the TMC briefing. I'm secondary on that, and Liam had another meeting, I think, to go to. So I just want to report out. They gave just updates on the flow reports and how those have been working out and matching the storms and different things, and what things will look like with this coming storm, trying to make sure that they manage the flows and the natural events simultaneously. A good percentage of the conversation at the end was trying to increase efforts to engage the public more, and how to do that within the confines of the Federal Advisory Committee Act, which means that all of the information that's gathered from folks and other agencies has to be then available to the whole of the public. So how do we have more sort of tailgate conversations and really getting information from the folks that are living on the river and people who, just have something that they want to share? How do we do that better and not break any rules? So that was quite a bit of conversation around that, and they'll be continuing to look for ways to become more, I guess, infused into the community, and the community having more of a opportunity to speak into that. Liam?
So was this a FACA group or just a standalone type advisory group? Not a-
They were looking for ways that they could have more like science on tap,
Mhm.
more opportunities that are kind of like that, but are not that. So increase those opportunities for kind of casual conversation, the transmission of the information that is super scientific, but get it out into the communities and just offer more opportunities for people up and down the whole stretch of the river that's being worked on to engage and gather information.
So let me just add a little something to that. We have been talking about having a FACA group similar to TAMWAG that we had several years ago that was disbanded during the Trump administration, the first Trump administration. And to get a FACA group going now would take probably a year and a half or two, and Trump is back in office, so that may not work. So what we're trying to do is to keep the public informed, is to have a casual group of people that represent the river, whether it's rafting guides, store owners, hotel people, that are able to, if not participate as a federal group, be in the room when we have TMC meetings and maybe have special meetings so they can see what goes into everything we do as far as, the infrastructure, the hatchery, and all the things that we talk about at TMC, because the county, besides just myself, you, Trent, that's most of the input. So I'd like to have anybody else who's interested be on this group and just see what we do and have a little bit of say in the things that we're trying to do.
Correct. That is what's going on. Okay, so I myself and Supervisor Gogan attended the North Coast Resource Partnership Group Climate Resilience in the North Coast of California meeting on January 29th and 30th. Just as a point, our attendance was paid for by the NCRP. So that makes it helpful for both of us to be able to go to that. We had the opportunity to listen to and have good conversations with folks regarding tribal leadership on climate resilience. And we were able to see how Sonoma County is doing some climate resilience initiatives. We also heard from a panel from the California, the Fifth Climate Assessment Group, California's Climate Future State Agency Leadership and Strategic Initiatives panel. The California and Sonoma County leadership on climate resilience, and look at the projects, the collaborative action on climate resilience, and then also hear from our neighbors in Siskiyou County on their climate collaborative. There was a myriad of presentations. The panels were incredibly informative, and the scope of work enormous. It was a lot of information coming out on hopeful pots of money from different agencies. And I noted specifically in one of the largest pots of money, there was 10% must be allocated to underserved and poverty-heavy communities. And since we are the poorest county in the state of California, I think that there may be an opportunity for us to latch onto that and bring some of that money on specific projects here. So I'm going to be sharing the contacts with CAO Tut Hill, and those can trickle out to our conservation folks in our county to just make sure that they know to keep their eye on that potential funding. I do want to say that one of the presentations was regarding the offshore wind project, and I know that we had a presentation in brief from when we had our tribal presentations. And it is something that I would like our board and our county to keep a very close eye on, to watch how that is moving forward, possibly speak into the process, and just make sure that our county is not yet again a pass-through county if that project moves forward for the conduits for the energy. I want to make sure that in the event that they are pushing that forward, or that's a consideration, that we are at the front seat in the table regarding that. I'm getting more and more frustrated that our county is used for the transport of many things, with the Wi-Fi going through, yet none of the laterals have been put in place to support our community. Our water gets shipped away, and here we sit, not able to meet the service needs of our people, yet everyone else can come by and utilize what they need from us. And I really want to make sure that we are upfront and personal on that project as it develops. That's it. Oh, I'm going, I have a meeting tonight or this afternoon with the RCND, and then at the end of next month, I will be traveling for NACO. So
Very good. Just a couple things about NCRP. As we went through the myriad of presentations and how much money they've given out to each county for separate rehabilitation issues, we were not on that list. It seemed like we were very, very, I don't know if we were overlooked or in the past we hadn't been on the radar. But I think there's a lot of money in this group. There's a lot of grant money in this group. And I think that we need to, myself and Heidi, need to find a way to funnel that, as she said, into Watershed Center, RCRC, 5Cs, because there is quite a bit of money in that group. And they're a very large organization. I think Rick went to the first meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And there's probably 30 or so supervisors in attendance. And, you know, the presenters that were there, I would imagine at this last meeting in Sonoma, there was 200 or so people there, Heidi, in that range. So, yeah, it's a highly attended event. And not only do we get to hear things that are coming up, we also get to, like RCRC and CSAC, rub shoulders, if you would, with some of the folks that are going through some of the things that we are, and, you know, trying to figure out how to work their way through that. But one thing I think that myself and Heidi being on NCRP and the ad hoc for that, I'd like to see us be a little bit more successful in getting some money towards Trinity County in the next couple of years anyways.
yeah, I do want to say that I've already gotten emails back from some of the folks that I had conversations with regarding funding opportunities for specific cleanup issues around illegal cannabis grows and any abandoned privately owned ones that are, you know, fallen out of permit and the property's kind of sitting. So there's hope there. And then also, I do want to give a shout out to the Creighton Resort and Casino who hosted the meeting. That facility is beautiful. It is well put together. The service was amazing. The food was amazing. And just the overall atmosphere at that event center was very well put together. It was a very good conference.
I think by far, for me, probably one of the best conferences that I have, for sure. And great participation. To get 200 people out all on the same page. It's good to see. And I hope we see some good progress down the road out of NCRP. And that would be it for our, oh, wait a second. Did you have more?
No.
No, you didn't? All right. I have more. So at the town hall on the 22nd, majority of the subject there was cell towers, again, as we spoke of today, and cleaning up some of the homeless encampments out there, compound, the place behind Brady Road there behind the salon. And, what can be done? How can we do it? I let them know that we just got together a homeless encampment ad hoc, and, my wish list was definitely the compound. So that was good to hear. The folks are hopeful there, and let's hope that goes through. I also will be out I was on a joint phone call with LAFCO to start the ball rolling as fast as we possibly can with the PUD, the fire department out there, to keep them as an independent district. And I think myself and Julia spearheading this, and Blong, who's in the audience here today, is doing a great job with that. There is a fire meeting on Friday at 10 o'clock at Post Mountain Fire Department. Myself and Julia will be attending that and trying to keep this ball rolling. And Colette from LAFCO has been unbelievably patient, great to work with. We have a set up calls now that'll be coming through, every other week or so, just to keep this thing going. We got about 9 months left to get everything correct. And I think that we're making good strides forward, but we have to continue to keep our foot, on the gas as far as that goes out there in Post Mountain. But to me, it looks like it's doing much better than it ever was before. So that is it for me.
Question, so I'm clear.
Sure.
Do your two districts split Post Mountain?
They do not.
Oh.
When I first took over as supervisor, I did have District 5. And then with the census and the redistricting, I lost District 5 and
Post Mountain.
I lost Jessica. I lost Post Mountain, which is now divided between District 4 and District 5. So and I honestly, I think it's a big reach for Heidi to be a supervisor of the Pines. It's a long way away. I kind of know those folks pretty well because of my first year or so on the board working with District 5. And Julia is going to help, serve that community as best as possible. And as a new supervisor, I'm just helping her get on her feet, find out who she needs to talk to. And with limited amount of time we have to get this done through LAFCO, see if we can get this to the finish line prior to the expiration of our additional time.
Okay, thanks.
Just to speak into that, I serve on the LAFCO and am very aware of what's going on in the Pines District with their extension to set up their district there and to try to get things on board. I've been out there and have met with the folks. One of the reasons that Liam's involvement is necessary to some degree is that if Hayfork assumes, their district assumes Post Mountain, or if Post Mountain is allowed to, or is able to stand on their own feet. So his input there is necessary to some degree. And if the two of them are there, I can't be. So we kind of have to, maybe we can take turns, but all three of us can't be privileged to the information because it breaks the rules. So we'll just have to figure out between the three of us to take turns or something so that we don't have serial meetings or we don't break the rules of more than two of us being in a location at one time.
It was the serial meetings that was actually coming up as more concern in my mind, because, that's just a matter of you weigh in with your input, which he then shares with that person. So you guys.
Correct. So
you guys
we're
will just
kind of
have
up
to be very
against it
Careful.
with three people having, I guess, interest in what happens there. I'm comfortable with having it filtered through the LAFCO meetings or conversation happening here in public so that we don't have serial meetings or that all three of us aren't privileged information that Supervisor Cox and Loweiler are not prior to a meeting or a decision.
Great.
Good.
Reports from ad hocs. We have the homeless encampment, which we will let CEO Tuthill.
Thank you, Chair. So on the 23rd of January, the full ad hoc met. There was a number of different staff organizations represented, as well as the two supervisors assigned to the ad hoc and one local nonprofit. We worked through the draft action plan, made some refinements, and came up with some action item type of assignments. The first item was to, on the draft action plan, is to basically provide a good detailed assessment of where the properties are located throughout the county. There's a platform called the Crisis Tracker, which is already used by OES to capture data in certain events. And we're going to flush out the concept of using that as a platform and then get input from various groups to include potentially some of the volunteer fire departments, which Jill will talk to them at the next meeting they're having. Also working the land management aspect with CAL FIRE, the Trinity River Conservation Camp. I announced in here last meeting that we have a request into them. I've got a status update request into them. I haven't heard back from them yet. I assume they're still out on fire duty outside the county. We'll continue to work that effort though, and I'm confident we can make some headway before the summertime on that one. Lots of good discussion about education and outreach and how that needs to be incorporated in there. Probation department stepped up to lead an effort, and they're going to conduct some visits to the camp locations with a consolidated group of folks. They're going to put that together and basically spearhead that and run that, and that's going to start any time. We won't necessarily announce when those are going to happen, but those are going to be an ongoing effort. HRN and the PIO team are working to kind of establish a communication plan, what that'll look like, who needs to be involved, how that can benefit this topic. There's been some example ordinances and ideas gathered. Jill led that effort, and we've got 4 responses, I think, to date that I'm aware of. That information's kind of been consolidated and redispersed out to the group for information and understanding. There are some differing ideas out there. There's some ordinances, some okay examples. There isn't like one great example that's just done everything right, that has everything done that we can just kind of go follow. So each jurisdiction is kind of taken a little bit different steps and different approaches, and there are different phases of this. So we'll do some lessons learned out of that and see where that goes. Our next ad hoc is scheduled for the 6th of February in this room, and we'll further evaluate and refine what we're doing towards this action plan. And that's all I've got.
Thank you, CEO Tuthill. We will now move into the consent calendar. These items include routine, non-controversial matters and will be acted upon by the board by one roll call motion. If a member of the public has any questions or comments on the items on the consent calendar, they may provide them now. A member of the board or staff may request an item be pulled and considered separately. Do we have anybody want to pull anything from the consent calendar?
Chair, I'd like to pull item D8 for discussion.
Do we have any public comment?
Veronica?
None in the
Hey.
room?
Can you hear me? Oh, sorry.
Veronica, you need my phone number?
Yes.
Yeah, we can't hear you. So 530-739-5998. Okay, Veronica, let's see.
Good morning, Veronica Kelly Albies, Douglas City. I'm requesting that you pull all of the planning commissioner letters for a fuller discussion. Not that I have any problem with any of them, but I think there should be more discussion about providing training and providing them with tools to uphold and or build our county with consideration of their district and whole of county. They should be provided with detailed and in-depth backup materials for decision-making and clear training on what they are legally allowed to do or consider. The last 4 years have included many appearances of personal opinions and choices over rule of county and fully informed options. Planning commissioners need your support and training so they can have all the tools that we can provide to them to do their job, especially as we move into a general plan, as we continue moving that forward. I think because we don't have county council there, and these are members, volunteers from our community, they need that support. They need stronger training on what their job is to be and what they can and cannot consider at any given time. I remember back, pre-COVID, there were maps and all kinds of things that the planning commissioners had at their fingertips during meetings to make informed decisions. And as we move into these really important pieces of our county's future, I think it's important to go back to that and but give them all the tools and training that they need to understand what they do for the county and their district. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have anybody else on Zoom?
Ben?
He has the number?
Good morning. I'm assuming you can't hear me still?
Do you need the number again, Ben? Oh, there he is. Okay, go ahead, Ben.
Good morning again, Ben Kellogg, Weaverville. Everything Veronica just stated and more. I believe we also need to inform the public on just a informational introduction to these planning commissioners. I can't believe these are actually on the consent calendar, and because these aren't necessarily non-controversial. However, they shouldn't be just a roll call vote. We should have a in-depth introduction as to who these people are, why they're being nominated as planning commissioners, and make sure that the public is aware. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you very much, man. Any other comment on Zoom?
None at this time, no.
Okay. So we will take a motion on the rest of the consent calendar, and then we will deal with item D8 after that. Anybody would like to make a motion on the consent calendar?
I'll move to approve, I'll move to approve the balance of the consent calendar with exception to item D8.
I will second.
And before we take the vote, I'm wondering if it would be appropriate to have council describe to the public why we can move forward with our planning commission assignments without the in-depth conversation about each individual.
I believe there is also some information in the packet itself about these particular applicants. So there's no requirement that you have an in-depth introduction to them. The materials are attached to the packet for review by the public. So
thank you.
May I make a comment too prior to the vote?
Yes, go ahead.
So in regards to the training aspect of it, all planning commissioners are offered the opportunity to attend training both in person and virtually for their roles as a planning commissioner. We highly encourage that training to be conducted and completed. And it is up to the individual commissioner to, fulfill that particular training requirement. These appointments are follow-on appointments. These are not new appointments. And this is being done because of the new supervisors were appointed to new terms. So we need to officially appoint new planning commissioners to new terms to coincide with those supervisor appointments. But these are not new planning commissioners.
Yeah, I do think they go through some annual upgraded learning. I think they go to a class at least once a year to get some learning on new laws and new rules. So I think they do a pretty good job at that. Did we had a first? I seconded it.
Supervisor Gogan,
Aye.
Supervisor Cox,
Aye.
Supervisor Litwiler,
Aye.
Supervisor Brownfield,
Aye.
Supervisor Carpenter Harris.
Aye.
And now we'll do, as far as county matters go, D8, which was pulled by CAO Tuthill.
Thank you, Chair. This was pulled at the request of our probation department head, and Ruby is here to talk about this, and really just, there's no issue with it, no concerns with it. It's really just to highlight, for board and public awareness, what it is and what our probation department is doing on your behalf throughout the county.
Morning, Chairman Gogan, members of the board, Ruby Fierro, Chief Probation Officer. Yes, I did ask for this to be pulled so that, contracts generally are a matter of, the consent calendar, but this one has some meaning to it that I really wanted to highlight for you. And this is about 2 years of work as well. So in general, when I've tried to give a high-level overview of what this is to others as well, I'm kind of registering to be a doctor's office. And so to give you some context for that, probation does work with the population that we supervise, which is juveniles and adults who are released from state prison, who are released under supervision instead of state prison, and also coming out of our county jail under a local prison sentence. When we are doing our duties with these people, part of that is that we are doing assessments. We do evidence-based assessments, determine what needs they have, what is going to produce what we call their criminogenic factors. And we refer them to services. In some cases, we provide those services to what we call reduce their recidivism, so that they're not committing more crimes, creating more victims, and living a healthier, more pro-social life. Some of these are billable Medi-Cal activities. So we have a history of, we utilize MA and TCM. I won't go into all the details of these things, but these are two programs, MA and TCM, that we can do Medi-Cal billing. And we have a company called JBI that brokers that for us. So we give them the information about what we're doing and our time, they do the billing, and then they send in the money. With the entry of CalAIM, TCM is no longer one of those revenue sources for the probation department. That money's going away, or it has gone away. So we were looking at what other revenue sources we could use. Being an ECM provider, that's an enhanced case manager, it's activities that we already do. It's just a way to bill it. So it's not changing what we do operationally, it's a billing thing. This is honestly not something I wanted to do. It's a little bit of a heavy lift and a lot of hoops to jump through for money. However, we live in a reality where I had to weigh, is it going to cost us more than what it's going to bring in? And it's not. So we're going to give this a try, and we are going to be essentially a registered provider for Partnership Health. And so where JBI was handling our billing for the MA and the TCM, now we're going to be a Partnership Health. And again, I don't have a billing mechanism. And that would cost a lot of money to be able to do those kinds of computer programs to train people on the billing. So I talked with behavioral health, and behavioral health agreed to do our billing for us. And so I also just really wanted to highlight that cooperative nature of this county. They have the mechanism to do it. So in a way, it was almost like I'd be subcontracted with them, where they were taking the information and they were doing the billing. And now with behavioral health coming under HHS, Director Hamilton and I have had some discussion. We haven't worked out the details. However, they are also willing to help us with this billing piece. So we, as a probation department, are going to be ECM provider for Partnership Health, and HHS will help us through that billing piece of it. And there's a lot of moving pieces. It's big. And I don't have exact numbers in front of me, but to give you an estimate, so the projections that were given is that it would be about $100,000 a year of revenue coming in for the services that we already provide, whereas what I'm losing is about $25,000 a year. So hopefully this will work out well for us, and we'll see how it goes. But just really wanted to highlight that partnership in the county, and also the fact that I'm not the only department head who is going, I don't want to do this. But doing it, I've had to learn so much language that's within the medical realm. It's bizarre, but it's important to try and do this to be able to make sure that we have the funding to provide the services for the county as much as possible.
Thank you. May we ask questions, or do we need to make a?
One more time.
Ask questions?
Yes.
Is that okay? I just, first of all, I want to say thank you for being creative. I know that all of our department heads are working very, very hard to make ends come together. So I'm very grateful and very proud of you guys for finding a way forward together. So thank you for that. Also, just a curiosity piece, as a provider, does that do anything to the insurance that you have to carry, or in terms of someone saying we didn't care correctly?
No.
Okay, thank you.
And
Question, if I could. Want to second Supervisor Carpenter Harris's appreciation of the collaboration that continues to exist between our departments, and continue to highlight to the public, because it is a very big deal. So thank you for that as well. When we say that we're projecting $100,000 of revenue coming in for the services that we already provide, but we're losing $25,000 a year, is that potentially a win-win because we are paying within our own another county department? Are they then able to receive $25,000 as revenue in a certain sense for doing that work?
No, CalAIM dissolved TCM and brought in ECM.
So I think the piece I'm missing is behavioral health under HHS is doing the billing for us, correct?
They are going to be doing the billing into partnership. So
Oh, but
partnership
that's not revenue to, the work that they do is just another lift
It is.
for within. Okay.
Yes,
Wow.
it is them helping this department. They receive nothing from
Yeah.
it.
There's no revenue.
And
Yeah.
they could, yeah, as I said, it going from behavioral health to HHS, we need to have some discussions, and perhaps there'll be an MOU with some financial things there.
Mhm.
But yeah, there's so many other funding streams that we might be able to braid to cover some of the costs of them helping my department with that service.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, thanks.
Anybody else on the board? Ruby, thank you very much.
Chair, I would just like to underscore, Ruby said it was a heavy lift, and that's really not giving it the justice that's required of this type of effort. And, with the potential of, 6 figures in additional revenue for something like this has got, every one of these that we go after has got significant potential. And when people ask sometimes, well, what are you doing about trying to go out and look for additional revenue? You're just giving us all this doom and gloom. There are lots of things happening in the background. This is just one of those. And as we continue to unfold some more of those, we will be able to provide more updates in this forum. But there are different things being looked at and being worked by, staff on your behalf and on behalf of the citizens.
Thank you.
Make a motion to approve this item as presented.
Second.
And under the comment aspect of that, I love when there's a great opportunity to recognize people within our county team living out our values. And I'm pulled them up just to look at this because I was thinking this has to hit at least two. And accountability says we demonstrate high levels of ownership for the decisions we make and execute in a manner necessary to achieve intended results. So this is like, no, this isn't easy. I really don't want to do it, but I'm stepping up. I'm accountable. I'm going to make this happen. And then the other, which, we heard Director Hamilton's name mentioned, and that's come up a few times recently about her collaboration with other departments. I love seeing that, but our solution-oriented value says we respect the need to work within rules, regulations, policies, and laws while always taking a solution-oriented approach. So again, may not be the most fun way to get it done, but we're looking for the solution. How do we get it done?
That's right.
And I just love being able to call that out because a lot of times values are written and forgotten, and I think it's better that we show that we're living them out.
And I would like to also circle that back because these same players were the ones in the room along with many other partners when the whole homelessness ad hoc conversations were going on. These are the same people that are looking at their to-do lists and the weight that's on them day after day, week after week, stepping up to more and more tasks on behalf of the citizens who are asking for the safety and the help, the consideration. Truly do them, but everyone has their own limitation, and these people just continue to take on more and do it with grace and with excellence.
Agreed.
Shall you take a call?
Supervisor Cox,
Aye.
Supervisor Litwiler,
Aye.
Supervisor Brownfield,
Aye.
Supervisor Carpenter Harris,
Aye.
Supervisor Gogan.
Aye. We will now move to county matters. These items include non-routine or controversial matters and are listed alphabetically by department. A member of the board, staff, or public may request that an item be heard out of order. E1, Human Resources. Take the following actions for Health and Human Services Public Health Division. Number 1, approve the revised job description for a public health nursing supervisor and revise the salary range to H204. Number 2, approve the job description, set the salary range, add to the alphabetical listing of classifications, and allocate to the department a health educational specialist supervisor at range H193. Approve the job description, set the salary range, add to the alphabetical listings of classifications to allocate to the department a public health emergency preparedness coordinator at H189, and approve a side letter agreement with the Health and Human Services Bargaining Unit to add the new classifications. Approximate cost and salary and benefits per month at A step for public health nursing supervisor is $10,404. For health education specialist supervisor is $9,440. And for a public health emergency preparedness coordinator is $9,114. Yeah.
Good morning, Chairman Gogan and board. Hope you're all well today. We left out that this is not under general fund. I apologize there. So all these costs would go to HHS rather than to the general fund. And Liz Hamilton, Director of HHS, is also, I believe, on if there are any questions that you guys have. But we're preparing for the consolidation of HHS and BHS. This will get in the supervisory staff that we need in order to move forward to figure out the rest of the staff that'll be needed for that consolidation, as well as all the extra programs that are happening with those two agencies at the moment.
Do we have any public comment in the room? Do we have any on Zoom?
No.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
I will second. No discussion.
Supervisor Gogan,
Aye.
Supervisor Litwiler,
Aye.
Supervisor Cox,
Aye.
Supervisor Brownfield,
Aye.
Supervisor Carpenter Harris.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And before we adjourn the meeting, there was no, nothing to report out from last closed session from our last meeting.
We didn't have any closed sessions.
We don't. Well, I gotta give you some trouble. Let's adjourn the meeting.
Shout out to Leah for staying calm through all of that this morning.
Yeah.